Welcome to Recap Lab, where we recap some of the greatest movies of all time. For today's feature presentation, the 1986 classic, Top Gun. Major spoilers ahead. The aircraft carrier USS Enterprise, CVN-65, is on patrol near the Persian Gulf when radar contact is made with a MiG fighter. The combat air patrol of the Enterprise is vectored to meet the incoming aircraft, and the fighters involved are F-14 Tomcat interceptors, each manned by a pilot and a radar intercept officer. The pilot of the lead plane is Flight Lieutenant Peter Maverick Mitchell, a call sign appropriate for his arrogant rule-bending attitude. His RIO is Lieutenant Nicholas "GOOSE" Bradshaw. The second F-14 is piloted by Bill "COUGAR" Cortell with Sam Merlin Wells as the RIO. The two F-14s split up and are surprised when a second MiG, shielded from radar by riding within feet of its leader, appears. Cougar is outmaneuvered by MiG-1 while Maverick locks his missile radar on MiG-2, who promptly disengages. MiG-1 stays on Cougar and is only chased off when Maverick flies upside down, closes up on the MiG, and flashes an obscene gesture to the enemy pilot. The MiG disengages and the two Tomcats fly to the Enterprise, but Cougar is so rattled he cannot land, forcing Maverick, low on fuel and against orders, to abort his own landing and talk Cougar to the deck. Cougar, still shaken up, meets the Enterprise's captain, Tom "Stinger" Jordan, and turns in his wings. The encounter has left Cougar shaken, and he believes he can no longer fly battle. His wife is expecting a child at home, and he was worried that if something went wrong today, the youngster might never see his father. He begs his commander to let him go so he may go home because he wants to be with his family. It had been awarded to him and Cougar left the base right away. Back at the office, Maverick received an earful from Stinger. He commanded the pilots to retreat and was furious that Maverick disobeyed him. Despite the fact that Maverick was an excellent pilot, he will not be promoted because of the way he chose to act, which was to ignore them, flaunt himself, and provoke the enemy. Nowhere will ever put up with such conduct. Additionally, Stinger told them that he would send Maverick and Goose to Top Gun so they could train with the greatest pilots. Although Stinger had meant to send Cougar, he was now forced to substitute Maverick. The top trainers and teachers, all of whom had years of expertise, were found at Top Gun. The class's commanding officer, Michael Viper Metcalf, who had previously participated in a number of missions and was thought to be among the top pilots in the U.S. Navy, was introduced to the group on the first day. The pilots will go to school each day and take off on at least 2 combat flights. They would go through rigorous evaluations, and the pilot who received the highest score would receive the Top Gun trophy. The pilots were all out having a good time at a bar that night. Lieutenant Tom "ICEMAN" Kasansky was mentioned by Goose to Maverick as being the best of the pilots. The presence of ICEMAN led to him going around and collecting compliments from everyone. There was a great deal of conflict between him and Maverick. He tried to intimidate him, but Maverick refused to allow him because he thought he was just as skilled as ICEMAN. Goose dared Maverick to grab the phone number of a stunning young blonde in jeans standing at the bar while they were hanging out. He pursues her by following her into the women's room and serenades to her. It doesn't seem to work until the following day when she shows up at the school and introduces herself as Charlotte Blackwood, also known as Charlie, a DoD flight instructor who Maverick had assumed was male but had never seen before. Despite being a civilian in theory, she is an expert in the flight simulator and has defeated several real pilots. She was lecturing the students about the MiG-28's inability to operate in negative pushover and other components, as Maverick had recently met this jet. He corrected Charlie's knowledge of its formation because he knew more about it. Charlie stopped him as he was leaving after class and thanked him for his bravery because flying an upside-down plane is quite challenging. She also asked him to elaborate on the MiG-28 jets for her because she planned to compose a paper about them and thought his experience would be very useful. Maverick successfully outflies and shoots down LTC Richard Jester Heatherly, the school's resident enemy pilot, in his first exercise. However, in doing so, he violates the minimum engagement altitude, or hard deck, and he adds insult to injury by buzzing, or overflying, a flight tower at an absurdly low altitude for show. shocking some officers who were drinking coffee, causing them to spill their drink. In the changing area, ICEMAN warned Maverick that his flying style put everyone's safety in peril. He laughed in his face because he had no fear. Later, METCALF called Maverick into his office and reprimanded him for insulting the tower's officers and violating a rule by firing a shot. In addition, after being warned not to, he flew his aircraft below 10,000 feet, which could have caused a collision. He cautioned Maverick since he did something he didn't like. They took their rules and regulations extremely seriously at the academy, and if he disregarded them again, his time at Top Gun would end prematurely. Both were dismissed. METCALF had previously flown with Maverick's father, who shared his son's love, but it was vital to put Maverick on a safer, less dangerous route. Maverick asked Charlie out to dinner the next day in class. She dismissed him and asserted that she didn't date students. He was ridiculed and laughed at by all the pilots. Without telling anyone in the classroom, she slipped him a piece of paper with the time and location of the dinner while she was standing next to him. When he discovered he was behind schedule while playing volleyball, he raced as swiftly as he could to the location. Maverick apologized for being late. Charlie questioned him extensively over the MiG-28. She assured him that if she finished her paper, she would receive a significant promotion. Maverick answered everything and also discussed his upbringing and parents. Although his father was an excellent pilot, one day he took off and never came back. They discussed their lives and interests that evening. The following day, Charlie admitted to him in the elevator that she had never invited a student to her house. Goose's wife and children had come to visit for a few days. Maverick proceeded to pick them up as well because he was extremely close to them. In a lesson on differential equations that Charlie was teaching the students, she stressed the dangers of piloting a plane upside down, as Maverick had done in the past. The enemy can easily engage the plane and bring it down. Because they would have little chance of a counterattack, she encouraged everyone to stay away from such a move. After this lesson, Maverick was made fun of by ICEMAN, which infuriated him and drove him to run away. He did not answer when Charlie called. Instead, he hopped on his bike and took off. She tried to keep up with his quick driving and passed him. She said they had a personal relationship and that she kept her personal and work lives separate. It was obvious that she had fallen for him and didn't want anyone to know. They kissed and later made love. The next morning, the pilots left on their combat mission. Senior commanders from their organization joined them in the air because it was one of their most crucial meetings. Maverick and ICEMAN were deadlocked on points. The trophy would go to the winner of this contest. Later in the flight, Maverick became extremely eager and left his partner Goose alone to follow ICEMAN. Maverick's senior officer was outraged and reprimanded him, emphasizing how important it is for a pilot to stick with his partner. ICEMAN also made fun of Maverick for his silly act of bravery and jealousy, reminding him that he must always stick with him, and this time he was right. Maverick apologized for leaving Goose behind and vowed never to do it again. Maverick, Charlie, and Goose's family went out to dine that evening. Charlie learned that Maverick was deeply in love with her via Goose's wife. They have a good time dancing all night. During their combat mission, Maverick and Goose were pursuing ICEMAN and his companion as they often did. When one of the plane's engines failed, they started to lose control, and the second engine quickly followed suit. The aircraft was dropping rapidly while flying in circles. Goose was told to punch them out by Maverick because he couldn't reach the ejection handle. Pilots need to guard against severe shock when the seat for parachutes is released. Goose neglected to do this, and as a result, his neck shattered. Maverick opened his parachute as soon as he was at water's surface and pulled Goose over. He was rapidly bleeding out and passed away instantly. When the rescue crew arrived, they were both extricated. Maverick took the blame for his closest friend's passing, which upset everyone at the academy. He resisted talking to Charlie about his severe depression. When Maverick went to see Goose's wife and son, they were still grieving his passing. She gave Maverick a bear hug after noticing his distress. This visit was extremely tough for him, and he chose to quit the Navy once the investigative committee's investigation was concluded. They made it very clear that Maverick wasn't responsible to Goose's passing. None of them could have stopped the engine from failing. Despite being given the go-ahead to fly once more, Maverick's spirit was crushed. He was unable to maintain a steady aim or strike precise targets. He even got into a disagreement with his new partner over the fact that he wasn't firing on cue. Charlie counseled him to keep holding on to his hopes and goals. He needed to quit blaming himself because Goose's death was not his fault. Maverick, on the other hand, was still in the game. When she first saw him, he was so confident, so it breaks her heart to see him in this condition. She was disappointed that her remarks made little impact on him. METCALF had called Maverick over to his house, and as he was looking through some pictures, he informed Maverick that he knew his father since they had both flown in Vietnam off the USS Oriskany, CV-834, and had been shot down when they attacked the enemy in neutral airspace. He opted to put others' needs ahead of his own and gave his life to protect others. He added that if his father had been alive, he would have stopped Maverick from leaving the academy. Maverick made the decision to go with the rest of his class on graduation day. Everyone congratulated him on his accomplishment after he graduated as a top gun. Maverick congratulated ICEMAN, the graduate with the highest grade, for graduating. The Air Force needed their expertise during their celebration because of a serious circumstance. A pilot got lost in an enemy territory and was besieged by MiG aircrafts. Maverick was one of a handful of pilots chosen by METCALF to take off right away. ICEMAN advised the officers to leave Maverick behind because he might not be mentally ready during the briefing. ICEMAN and Hollywood were sent out at first, with Maverick staying behind on the base in case of need. They quickly discovered there were more MiGs than they had anticipated as they approached the enemy zone. They surrounded ICEMAN's jet and launched an onslaught on Hollywood. He explained to them that he was entrapped and helpless. Maverick grew nervous when the officers dispatched him and began experiencing flashbacks to his past experience. He decided to go back to the airbase. He inhaled deeply and mustered the courage to go on. Before they could stabilize, he circled and flew above a jet. After Maverick destroyed one enemy airplane, he started speaking to ICEMAN and told him to destroy another. Maverick killed the third MiG, with another on his tail. He launched missiles at him, but Maverick dodged them all and destroyed the pursuing plane. When the other pilots realized this, they made the decision to turn back, allowing ICEMAN and Maverick to reach the base safely. When they touched down, the cheering pilots and trainees welcomed them. After this successful expedition, Maverick was showered with acclaim. ICEMAN and Maverick end up being good friends. Maverick is given the option of accepting any assignment as a reward for his heroism. He decides to work as a Top Gun instructor. The officer laughed and remarked, "God help them all, if Maverick wanted to be a teacher." Maverick and Charlie reconciled after meeting. If you liked this video, please don't be shy about clicking the like button. You can also subscribe to our channel to receive notifications of new movie recap videos. Thank you.